Everything okay?
How are you, Ludo?
Fine, fine. I'm at home like almost everyone in this planet.
Yeah, yeah, man. So
Also in
thank you.
Italy.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining. It's a
Thank you
big
too.
pleasure for me to have you here talking to me, and it's very cool that you
It's
joined.
good. It's good. I would like to really thank you very much for this series of talk. It's really nice to feel so close with other conductors and musicians around the world. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank
It's your
you for
fault.
participating. So I have prepared some questions for you today, and before I start, throwing them at you, maybe you could start talking a bit about you and your experience with conducting. What do you
Oh,
think?
yes, of course. It's not simple because I come from a really small country town called Montapone in the central east of Italy. It's about 1,400 people. It's really, really small, but I love live there. A lot of friends, a lot of good vibe. But for studying music, it's not too good because I start to study music not too early, actually, because of my city, and there were no music school here. But I feel the improvisation, and improvisation was the things that fascinated me from the start. It fascinated me for a simple reason, because people who don't even know each other can communicate through improvisation. And first of all, I study guitar. I approached improvisation through blues styles, and then I went to jazz. But over the time, I felt that there was something missing in structured improvisation, because it was the thing I was looking for to communicate across culture. But it was a very specific language, with very specific rules you need to know if you want to play with other speakers. So I always looked for something that could go in this direction. And the first time I saw something similar to a straight conducted improvisation was in 2009. I attended a workshop of improvisation with a French composer, François Rosset. It was not a conductor, but a really, really creative man, a contemporary composer and pianist. He almost seemed to me like a mad scientist, but it is, first of all, a really creative musician. And it took to me to use contemporary music language in jazz style, and the thing that shook to me, it was the idea to use a sort of proverbal language to get in touch and talk with a lot of musicians through specific culture and musical genre. He usually uses some strange gestures, not so codified, but almost spontaneous, to guide the ensemble in the improvisation. But the very first time I met codified language of conducted improvisation was in 2012 with Maestro Paolo Damiani. He used a mixed technique of gestures that he calls in Italian conduzione chironomica. I can translate this in chironomic conduction. It allowed to me to study a lot of different technique with a large and stable ensemble in the Conservatorio Santa Cecilia in Rome. The ensemble name was Orchestra Aperta, open orchestra in English. He introduced me to use music, introduced me to the music of Butch Morris, Walter Thompson, Cecil Taylor, and Jon Zorn, and so on. And I'm very grateful to him about that. In this new approach to music, to improvisation, and to the composition, I found a lot of stimulus. It was the right toolkit I need to know to develop my personal idea of music. So I study a lot on books that helped me to get in touch with the masters of conducted improvisation, The Art of Conduction by Butch Morris, the one who edited by Daniela Veronesi, the book about Walter Thompson's Soundpainting and so on. Only something I can also see in your background. And the last steps is from 2016, when I felt the need to experiment the possibilities of conducted improvisation with a small and stable ensemble. So we created the QRO. It's strange to me to say QRO, because in Italian, Quick Response Orchestra is QR Orchestra. QR, like QR code. But QRO is not a large orchestra. It's a kind of provocation in the name. It is 6-element, a rock-oriented ensemble, extremely flexible and responsive to the gesture of a conductor, in this case, me. I really love the atmosphere we managed to create and the unpredictability of what can be created. Maybe QRO is the core project of my artistic research, and first of all, the place where I can study deeply on free improvisation technique with a great musician and great improvisers, so great friends. The last experience in progress is Infinito. Infinito is an open and free workshop. We almost every month meet up to study some conduction technique and different technique. It's located in my region, near my home. And it's a new project, but I really love what we have done in 1 year of work. And I forgot I'm working on a PhD project on conducted improvisation, and I think that's all of me.
Yeah, man, you study it a lot. You have an outstanding story in conducted improvisation, and this leads me to the next thing I want to ask from you, which is because you have studied those all great different styles of conducting, you know, Butch Morris style, Walter Thompson, and all those styles you mentioned. Which one is the one you like most to use for yourself, or do you create your own gestures? How do you combine the technicality, the technical aspects for, you know, using the gestures and conducting your groups?
It's a really hard question, because I love Butch Morris for the freedom, for spirituality, and I love Walter Thompson for the clear system he created. I think I love to use almost Butch Morris way of conduction, but in Walter Thompson form.
Okay.
If I think the role of the conductor, not such a despot, but a sort of connection facilitator. I think the conductor needs to introduce energy in the ensemble, so receive the new energy from the ensemble and to understand this energy, catalyze this, and so you can repeat this process. I really love when the conductor can stop his gestures and the ensemble goes free and safe and in a good direction.
Yeah, sure.
I think conductor has a core importance in the workshop and in the build-on process of the ensemble. But I think in the performance, in my honest opinion, he must gradually disappear. He must become invisible, a ghost, a spirit, who with his presence can manage to catalyze the energy. Each conductor has a whole technique, like Morris or Thompson, or own sensibility or musical sensitivity, and everyone needs to think about it constantly. It's not a sort of a unerring god, but is a member of the ensemble, and he needs to think themselves in this way during the performance. So I love conducted improvisation without too much gestures. Because for me, the primary focus of the performance is not the action of the conductor, but the interaction, the interplay between the quadrilateral conductor, signs, musician, and listeners. I'm not feeling really close to conductors who want to replicate the technique of composition, but in a really real-time action. If I want this, I prefer to write scores, open scores of graphic or non-conventional notation. I can use everything I want. Composition, improvisation are really different process for me. Formed by different cognitive metrics, and don't want to overlap two distinct things.
That's deep, bro. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I can remember now one quote from Butch Morris, which he said that his dream was to come in stage, and he doesn't really need to give any gesture, and the music happens from
yes.
itself. It happens.
I totally agreed with that. And so with energy, Butch Morris say conduction. Explain conduction like physical conduction, energy, hot, warm, and cold, who can communicate.
Yeah, that's deep. So you were saying about you don't like to use a lot of gestures, but in this case, do you use free conducting to conduct your orchestra? By that I mean, do you use gestures without meaning? I mean, just moving your body with your body language. Do you use your body language to to make people create music without a meaning for that gesture, without repeat or sustain or something like that?
Yes, I usually use the gestures with a meaning, what we can call metaphors, or practically gesture with codify, signify. It might seem like a contradiction, but free gestures are more stringent than the others, because in the second case, free gestures, the conductor becomes like a score. He or she become the guarantee of what is played. And I don't want to put the conductor on a higher level than the musicians. I think that the gestures, the signs are the only mediators between my action, the action of a conductor, and the action of the others. Free gestures for me are like a little solo of the conductor, and they not to be so much in a single performance. It must be a collective performance and not a set of solos. The question for me is like that. The ensemble is following the conductor, or is following the signifier of the gestures? And my answer is that I want that the ensemble follows the signifier of the gesture, because it is something else than me. It's something higher, is something deeper, and I don't want to overexpose myself and my personality. If I want to do this, I write music in our time. It's at least my authorship issue. Because you of what's I like to say, because you often think the conductor is the only creator, the one and the only brain of the ensemble and of the improvisation. But I always say, in improvisation, with groups, solo, with an orchestra, there is no body without brain. And the reverse is also true. So personally, I try to fight all this misunderstanding by focusing on gestures and not on the conductor's body.
Very interesting. Yeah, you have great thoughts, man. Nice. This brings me to a question, which is because you said that you like to write scores. Yes. Do you combine scores with your improvisation, conducted improvisation? Do you combine them?
Yes, a lot. A lot of this, because I write a lot of melody, arrangement, rhythm, and so on. But I always use conduction, always. Okay. Not conduction, but conducted improvisation, like a tool to explore the score and to find out something new every time. And this is also in my last work. I write a lot, but there are not only melody from me, because I transcribed a lot of conduction we made in the time, and so I think that is a good way to set something new to the listeners. Okay. Because when I record, I think this is a different process from live performance to a recording session. They are not the same things, but I think they have equally artistic value.
Okay, and nice. And because you were saying about the difference between recordings and live sessions, I would like to know what do you think about when you are recording an improvisation? Do you agree that you can edit afterwards? You know, I mean, or do you think that you must have only the faithful recording of just happened? Or can you edit it, add some things, overdubs? How do you work with your recordings when you are doing that?
This is really complex question for me. But I answer to you that if you want to testify the result of the result of the action of a conducted improvisation, you need to record everything, like a film recording or like soundscaping of your ensemble. But in my opinion, if you want to write an LP, for example, you don't need to limit the possibility of the recording. Yes, of course, there are a lot of characteristics of conducted improvisation, like spontaneity, unpredictability, the flow, the groove, and so on. And you need to record without filters, like a live performance. But this does not exclude the possibility to increase the atmospheres created by conducted improvisation with overdubs, editing, or using your imagination. I think it's a long-standing problem that we can resume in one question. When you record an improvisation, this is still the same improvisation? My answer is another time, no. They are not the same things, but they have equally artistic value. I think so. Medium that are very different, live performance and studio recording are different way of thinking and living music, and you could work in a different way. simply because of it. It is utopian to think that the listeners relieves the sensation we have experienced in live performance. So I always think to create work that can be testify my emotion I lived in live performance, but I must create this sensation in a different way. Because we have to translate our emotion for the listener, for one other medium, and from one medium to another.
That's cool. Yeah, I totally agree. Very
so sorry for my English, but I'm not.
Your English is perfect, bro.
No,
you are killing it. Yeah.
You're too good.
So still in this vibe, when you are on stage, do you think that something can go wrong? Or do you think there's no errors? How do you think about frustration? You know, the things that can go on stage. Yeah.
This is the $1 million question. But I think only three things could go wrong on stage.
Okay.
I think the first is frustration and fear, like you say before, and a performance can go wrong when you're not ready to give all and risk everything. And I think the second is when you work with linear parameters of composition. Here you need to respect what you promise to your audience or your ensemble companion. I think in this case, the mistake is the same mistake as composition or structured improvisation. For example, in a conducted improvisation, if you play in C major, you can't play G sharp without prepare it. Or if you're playing blues, you can't forget any bars. But I think, in my opinion, today, it's not problem for almost the conductors, but there is one aesthetical mistake that I think is the worst mistake and my first fear. Its music is primarily a communicative project, and improvisation is music, so also improvisation is primarily a communicative project. And to be so defined, a communicative act must have at least three things: a sender, a message, and a receiver. Every time you improvise, you must think about this triad, because everything you play must have a message inside, and this message must be thought for a specific receiver. We are talking about artistic responsibility of improvisers. They shouldn't do a show only bringing on stage the process of the improvisation. It is an old thing, but they should use the possibility of improvisation, real-time creativity and interaction to say something new that the audience can understand. But I don't want to criticize anyone directly, but I just want to say that a certain artistic attitude that comes from the music avant-garde from the 20th century, and I think more specifically from the postmodern of the 70s, it's not good for improvisation and for the music of today. I think today we must find what our audience needs and try to bring to him the best music we can improvise. Not the music they want, but the music they need.
Okay. Yeah, I love your thoughts, man. Yeah, you have nice insights. Yeah, and well, you are clearly a scholar. You are a person who have studied a lot about those many different practices, and this is something that interests me also. I would like to know a little bit about how is being your process within the university, studying about conduction, about all those conducted improvisation practices, because this is something that really interests me.
I research on conducted improvisation because I love this tool. I love this kind of music. I love this anthropological I don't know the right term in English, but a group of people. I don't know. And in my PhD research, I try to study and modeling conducted improvisation on the philosophical, musicological, and anthropological point of view. I think we have a problem when we talk about conducted improvisation. For example, also in Italiano, we have problem with the term conduction. We can translate conduction. So conduction for us means the conduction of Bach Morris, but all the conducted improvisation. So I start to introduce in our language improvisazioni condotte. It's like conducted improvisation. And I think we have a problem when we talk about conductive improvisation. That is not a theory that has been put in practice, but it is the opposite. If we try to find rules into practice, we will have a large amount of data, of very different practices, a lot of conductor, of different gestures, and the talk of these days are a testament of this. We are 10 people with 10 different ways of conducting improvisation and to see our life and our art. But I'm working to find the basic rules of this project. Process. The rules, these rules can be the basis for a common work, breaking down the barriers of style and types of gesture used. There are several essays, the one I've written in a recent month and which will be released, I think, in September, and in different languages. I'm correcting the last ones these days, so I'm very happy to work on it because it's a new field of study.
I can't wait for seeing that, man. You have great ideas. Yeah.
I'll send to you. You're the first man.
Thank you, please. And well, I would like to come back a bit to your creative process because I really want to understand a bit more about your process as a conductor. I know you've talked a lot about your philosophical strategies, but I would like to know a bit about your practical strategies on stage. How do you what you look for and what you search when you are on stage and creating music live?
And I want to give you a technical answer.
Okay.
Because I always try also for my research to understand my mental processes during improvisation. And when I conduct, I'm not the creator of anything. I'm only the one who can give energy to the musician and dispose over time what comes from them. In this sense, the original etymology of the words composition seems to me pertinent to use, from Latin expression cum ponere. We can translate this with assemble, gather, put together. And it's so different from the written composition, but it's a real-time process that are no possibility to reverse in time, or to reverse time. So it's a different process which manifests itself in my head in I written in 4 parameters: energy, atmosphere, memory, and communication. Energy is the first. It's always the first things we need to consider. Energy guarantees the life of music and its breath. The system conductor ensemble must be alive. It is a complex ecosystem. It's an energy. It's not a matter of high dynamic range or timing or sound, but the energy is flowing inside and outside, in every gesture and in every response of the musician. Every sound event, from the relaxed one to the most powerful and distorted one. Energy is the parameter that distinguishes a dead human from a living one, and so a dead music for a living one. I think so. The second I read is atmosphere, and atmosphere is the only field that allow us to communicate before using a specific language. Because I personally always think the start of a free improvisation like a non-idiomatic improvisation. So we can't have rules, grammars, and cultural schemes that help us to communicate with each other. So we need the atmosphere. And we can define atmosphere in a philosophical way. A specialized field that produces effect on us, on our body. So we can find basic and shareable rules in the atmosphere we start to create. I usually define the atmospheres not with musical terms, like crescendo, diminuendo, or like that, but with feelings. Play something scary, something friendly, something upset, love, fear, doubt. These are all possible atmosphere we can play without use any codified language. And the third is memory. The third parameters. Memory. For memory, I consider this parameter the harder to manage for a conductor, and very specific to this application. I usually have my mind with some note I draw quickly during the performance. I need to know precisely the entire development I made during the performance with the recording of the show. And so I can find match of what it happened. Communication is the last, yes, communication, and is the core of my creative process. Like I say before, that's the parameter that puts energy, atmosphere, and memory together and transforms everything in music. Music, for me, first of all, it's the communicative project I say before, and the communicative project needs to be understandable. You need to be understandable when you conduct something.
Man, I love the way you put things. Yeah, great ideas. Cool, very cool. And well, still on your creative process, and I would like to know, what do you think that is, the secret sauce for a nice and interesting performance? What can happen that it really put fires on it?
I don't have any secret sauce, but like I have a lot of secret questions, and one I talk about one. I don't know if I can say it correctly in English, but
Okay.
will it be nice to listen again? Do I still want to listen my music another time? Because I love to perform music, dance, and beautiful to listen. I think to Bach Morris was the artist who, more than any other, could do this. I love to listen what I produce with my ensemble, also for analytic purpose or for enjoy myself, because the music is also that it can enjoy myself. For example, if you listen the LP Beside You, the new blue one,
This one.
yes,
Yeah,
you feel something powerful, vital, and you don't listen only with your brain, but with your whole body. And this is an audio tactile feeling. But for having an interesting performance, I work primarily on one thing, my own preparation. It's an attitude to listen. The conductor for me must to be a sort of an empty jar to fill with musical contribution. And before a show, I work to free my mind from expectation, from plans, from my own will. But I think this is not enough. Listen is a complex attitude that you need to train with a long-term training. I'm not only talking about your training. You know, yes, your training is important, but I think your training is a basic skill for every musician that you must enhance every day. But I'm talking about cultural music training, and a conductor must know as many as possible musical style and musical culture he can. From technical point, from anthropological point of view, and I think this is for understand as much as possible musicians stand in front of you, and so do not to disrespect him or her, because the musician need to know code gesture of the conductor. But the conductor must know technical possibility and culture of every musician in the ensemble. When you conduct an improvisation, you need to be open-minded and the best mediator you can be. That's the basic condition to catalyze energy of the group, recognizing the peculiarity of each single contribution. And I think so. It's not easy, but I try to work a lot on myself over this point.
Yeah, I must say that I find your answers and your thoughts very similar to what I do think also. So it's great to have you here talking about those ideas.
And we need to work together on this.
Yeah, we definitely will. And I would like to now, because we are running out of time, I would like to propose that we open for questions. And while we wait for someone to write down, if there is anyone who wants to ask any questions to you, maybe you could share one story that you keep in your heart, something that you remember with in a very cheerful way, something that happened to you, any story that comes to your mind.
I have a little story about conducted improvisation as pedagogical tool, because for me it's a really danger tool in a sort of way. Once in one of my workshops, there was a little girl, about 7 years old, a really talented musician, and she played Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, fluently and on the piano. She was a pianist. And the workshop lasted for 2 days. And in the first day, she didn't play. And of course, I didn't force her. The second day, and this fact surprised me, she dedicated to play all the time, never stops. And she interpreted the gesture well, with a lot of musical sense and creativity, and she has been smiling all the time. Very beautiful smile. For me, it was a really great thing. But at the end of workshop, I found her on the sidelines. She was really sad, and she was crying a lot. And I asked to her, "What's up? What's wrong?" And she answered to me, I don't want to play Beethoven anymore. He annoys me. It's not music. There is no fun, no freedom. I hate him. I hate Beethoven. I hate Bach. I don't remember the subject. But Beethoven is not my goal. But you know, this thing shocked me, and you know, I was really upset. I never think about this kind of reaction in a workshop of mine. I'm not the kind of person who says this is good and this is bad, this is crap music and this is good music. I always teach that in every kind of music there are good things and something that could be better, and that's not perfection at all. But I spend a lot of time explaining to her that there is no better music than the other, but that them work differently. And the beauty is being able to practice them all as much as possible without limits. And this is why I think the conducted improvisation can be dangerous too, if you don't introduce it carefully to everybody.
Interesting story. Yeah, interesting. Here we go for the first question we have here from D. Tamietti. What do you think about use the improvisation as a way of teaching music? Is it possible to you?
Yes, yeah, of course, it's possible. And so conducted improvisation are the basic things to sensibilize, that's no is the right term in English, but to bring together brain and musicality, because you don't read music, but you produce music. And also I say before I read this a term, audio-tactile, because for me it's important the difference between audio-tactile and visual, because for anthropology and musicology we can take two cognitive categories that allow us to comprehend how conducted improvisation can be. And one is visual cognitive matrix, and other one is audio-tactile cognitive matrix. And when you think with the parameter of linearity, order, out of time, planing, like a composer with paper, your brain is in the visual cognitive matrix. And when you think with the parameter of feelings, being the moment, the sound, the groove, everything you can write on paper, you're in audio-tactile cognitive matrix. And audio-tactile cognitive matrix is the basis of improvisation and the musicality. I just writing a paper on conduction like a pedagogical tool for kids and people who want to learn music. And I'm studying a lot on this. I think this is the core difference. because we always study music with the visual cognitive matrix, like paper, solfeggio, or reading music. And this is so, there is a distance between you and the paper, you and the music. In autodidactic practice, in conducted improvisation, there is no distance between the music. So you can live the music directly. And if you want a better answer, you can write to me, because my spoken English is not too good. So I'm sorry in advance for this answer.
You did an outstanding answer. Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, your English is perfect. Great.
No.
So
I need to improve it.
Next one we have here is, can you show some examples of gestures for creating atmospheres?
There is no gesture to create atmosphere. It's an idea. I talked about atmosphere because, for example, you can say to your ensemble, play this thing, play long tone, play loop, and this is a rule that can you realize with your music cultural, your music thought, and your idea of music. And this is cultural. If you play something cultural like Bach, Beethoven, or jazz music, or blues, or something else to people who don't know your culture, you're not able to communicate. But atmosphere is an idea. I play the fear, and I want to communicate the fear to the other. This is not a gesture, it's an idea. We all together play the enjoy, and we want to play enjoy with you, with a jazz musician, with I don't know what kind of culture is broader than me.
Yeah, man. I love the way you think and the way that you put things. Thanks for sharing those awesome ideas.
I don't love the way I explain my ideas in English, but that's good for me. That's enough.
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for participating in this talk. And I think you did very well. For me, it was great to hear you talking about those great things. It was very, very cool to have you here. So thank you so much for participating in that. And I hope to meet you soon, man. Yeah, I hope to do some music with you very soon.
Yes. Thank you, and thank you to all they look this talk. If you want to write to me, you can write my email above this under this video. I'm really happy.
Maybe if you want to share something, if you want to say where people can research about you, about your work, you can do it.
You can find me on my email, ludovico.peroni@gmail.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want. I'm really, really happy to bring a community together and to know a lot of people around the world who work with conducted improvisation, like Guilherme is a great conductor, and I love his music, and the music bring together, because we never met directly, only for music. So it's the best things for me.
Yeah, that's great, man. Thank you so much again, and
thank you too. See you soon.
Okay. Bye bye.